you walk into any restaurant or any business place, and what do you see? You see people engaged not normally, usually with other people. Most of the time, their head is straight into their cell phone, correct?
If we think about culture, the stories in Ramayana talk about the sanctity of marriage, the bonding of friends, the respect for the parents, keeping up the promises, diversity, equality.
Unless you have, again, that strong underpinning of your past traditions, your past heritages, your past cultural events, and even your food that will bond you together, we're going to see fracturing take place all over the place.
I think we are not able to interpret the words independence and privacy, more so in the Western world. We are interpreting these just for our convenience. We are not able to draw the line. And if I think about the Eastern and Western culture both, workaholism is also the culprit. What are our cultural values? Is the culture in crisis today? Why? How can we bring that back in action? We are going to talk about all of this today. Friends, this is Lakshmi Kant, the host. I created a not-for-profit named Masterji's Heritage Ramlila Studio with the purpose of connecting our young generation with good cultural values and to create space for the profession of purpose and culture to help businesses. With me, I have my co-host, Azara Anna, founder of Global Peace Media, a nonprofit organization with both humanitarian and media projects in various countries. She is an accomplished media professional with over 25 years of experience as a TV and radio producer, director, host, and writer of many shows. Azara, welcome.
Thank you so much, Lakshmi, for inviting me to this wonderful program where obviously the huge topics of culture, society, why are we in crisis, how do we get out of the crisis are ongoing topics, not a one-show thing at all. And I'd like to also say hello to anybody listening to this program. And in the future, if you have comments, please send them to us. We're always glad to answer anything at all because this is an interactive program. We want to hear from everybody, right?
Yeah, wonderful. So let's begin with defining in our own words, Azara, what are the cultural values, right? Such a wide topic, as you rightly said.
Absolutely. You come from a different culture than American culture. So do I. Tell me about your cultural beliefs and backgrounds and what brought you to this state of wanting to examine the culture at this point in time.
Look, I spent all my career in business, starting with working at a family owned startup in India to the largest of the businesses in the US. Lived 30 years in India, nearly 20 years in the US, traveled across the world. So I can talk a little bit about my personal experiences, both from business perspective and society in general. I like to believe that every place has their own beliefs and traditions around culture, right? A common narrative across the world. Number one, respecting elders. And it starts at home.
Yes.
It's very well connected with the concept of mentoring and counseling in business. Don't you think so, Azara?
Absolutely. The foundation of any culture is the family. Without a strong foundation, family values, it will start to unravel and fracture very quickly.
And the last, I would say, probably do unto others, the most important attribute of a leader.
Yes, no doubt about it. Well, I can talk a little bit about my own background. I am Italian, born in southern Italy, Sicily, actually. And I was born in a very small town with only about 200 people. You can only imagine that was a very close-knit culture where everybody knew everybody, right? Imagine that happening in America today where you knew 200 people around you. Doesn't exist. So clearly, in my own cultural upbringing, the values of faith, family, friends, and food were paramount. absolute paramount. Without those four pillars, so to speak, our town would not have held together. And so I believe that unless you have, again, that strong underpinning of your past traditions, your past heritages, your past cultural events, and even your food that will bond you together, we're going to see fracturing take place all over the place.
So what's the force behind it, Azara? What's the problem? Why are we feeling a crisis?
Well, from my own background of being in media for such a long time, I can tell you, having been across the world, many countries such as you have, and I'm seeing the same thing in other countries that I'm seeing here, complete dominance of media. Media controls consciousness and
Mm.
conditions behavior all over the place. Corporate media, social media, you name it. You walk down any street, any country, especially in America, or you walk into any restaurant or any business place, and what do you see? You see people engaged not normally, usually with other people. Most of the time, their head is straight into their cell phone, correct? They are
Mhm.
engaging in that little box in front of them. And what happens when you do that? Your whole day is then conditioned by whatever images and whatever information that little box wants to put into your mind. And since there is no media literacy anywhere in America for sure, there's a little bit more in other cultures, but in America, there is none because it's never taught in the educational system. And so
Mhm.
I know, having been in many, many, many newsrooms, that the motto, this is an actual motto, nothing that I'm making up. The motto of each newsroom, corporate media, that's like your mainstream media, news outlets, the motto is, if it bleeds, it leads. Here's what that means, Lakshmi. This is what it means. Imagine. In other words, the more blood and guts is attached to any one story, that will be the lead story of the evening news. And since all the reporters, all scrambling for attention and the lead story, what are they going to do? Are they going to go out and find the wonderful cultural roots of anybody in America or anywhere else? Of course not. They're going to find the story that has the most blood and terror associated with it so that they can get more face time on camera and, of course, get promoted and get a bigger salary. What do you think your society is going to look like when you've got years and years of that kind of media infiltration in everybody's mind?
And I like to believe that, we are not able to draw the line around increasing desire of independence in society, increasing desire of privacy, and workaholism, right? So the workaholic culture is probably the biggest culprit, to a race to win against each other. In
Yes.
fact, against our own family members.
Yes.
And this turns into investing no time in relationships, not spending time at home.
And as you know, being in that culture, their bottom line is their bottom line. They don't foster cultural values among employees, do they?
Yeah. And I have heard recently from probably Harvard or Stanford study as well that it's not about the happiness, it's
No.
more about the adaptability. And businesses care about the results, obviously, and that's their focus. So it's unfortunate to hear that the focus should not be on the happiness. Unfortunately, if we keep bringing workplace home, right, in
Yes.
workaholic culture, unfortunately, we are turning our home culture into what's in it for me. I remember during my childhood, sometimes I would go out and watch movies or go out with friends and family for entertainment just one day prior to my exam. That's the culture I was brought in. When people ask me that, hey, Lakshmi, what about you? And what about your daughters or children? That's how my children are grown up. They would not mind celebrating an occasion with family if they have tomorrow the exam. I picked
Yes.
that choice of being with my family and still ace the exams. So and the second thing is I resisted staying long at work. I had gone through the work environment which was crazy and I resisted. And today I'm glad that my place of work offers me the flexibility.
Yes, absolutely. Well, that what you just described in terms of the workaholic corporate place doesn't allow for any kind of individual expression or creativity. And without
Mhm.
creativity, which is a hallmark of human expression, human beings, first of all, they're not certainly going to be happy. They're also not going to be as efficient in the workplace. I do not believe that the corporate CEOs understand that. When you dampen down the creativity, flexibility of any individual, that individual is not going to be happy. And an unhappy individual is not going to give you their best work. Doesn't happen.
Can't agree more. If we talk a little bit, switch our gears more towards at home, right? I see a lot of time, so much importance given to the independence and privacy. And I can again tell a story. After spending initial couple of years outside India, I went back to my hometown and I had to visit a doctor. And my brother, as usual, he accompanied me. And in front of the doctor, I asked my brother to go out of the room. Within minutes, Zara, I realized, what did I do? What in the world could have happened had he stayed in the room? I just created a feeling of mistrust. And all this could have valid reasons, right? When people have rules and cultures about such kind of privacy, I can go half naked in front of my father, grandfather, or anyone in the society. I don't care about privacy, but when it comes to doctor, I suddenly care about the privacy.
Well, different people have different standards of what privacy means to them. Now, like
Mhm.
you, when traveling around, I'm sure you've seen that in some cultures, people are like bound together, they're walking close together, or they're walking arm in arm, while some cultures really shun that kind of behavior, right? They want to
Mhm.
have certain amount of space in between one another. So,
Mhm.
culture is very individual to any society or any group within that society, and it's a question of understanding and respecting.
I think we are applying the rules for convenience and drifting away from the culture of respect and trust and family values.
Yes. Here, when we can you think of any sort of event other
Mhm.
than kind of the usual holidays or the sort of
Mhm.
American celebrations that would bind sort of the normal everyday society and culture together? Can you think of any?
I can't in the normal way, right?
Yes.
But here I can say that when we started this foundation, what I used to observe, Diwali, for example, Indian festival. How do we celebrate Diwali? Just for firecrackers? Have we ever recited the story of Diwali with our children? Have we invited people from different cultures to celebrate with us in a traditional way other than getting some food and getting some firecrackers?
I don't know very much about the festival that you've just mentioned, and I'm
Yeah.
sure some people listening out there don't even know. If you could give us a quick summary, that would be great.
This is the festival of victory of good over evil, which resonated extremely well with the crazy events happened on 9/11. I open my home to 300 plus people, and I do it pretty much every year, inviting people from different cultures, and we recite the ancient Indian epic called Ramayana at home. And
Okay.
Diwali is all about that epic. The stories in Ramayana talk about the sanctity of marriage, the bonding of friends, keeping up the promises, the respect for the parents, diversity, equality, and whatnot. There are two characters, Rama, the good character, and Ravana, the evil character. Rama came back home to that particular day after getting a victory over the evil, the Ravan. And that's why we celebrate Diwali. And this could be very sensitive to say, but Zara, we are creating independent rooms for children at home. We are creating elderly care centers for the elderly. And we are
Yes.
too indulged in creating this adaptive culture at work And while doing all of this, we forget to smile together.
No,
We
there's not much smiling going on. Again, when you walk down any city, do you see people smiling? Now, again, their heads are down on their cell phones. And if you're in a big city, you're also very concerned about, oh my God, the crime going on around you, right?
Mhm.
Where is smiling going to come into that?
Yeah, and it's unfortunate that we have to find a Thanksgiving day to do that.
Yeah,
Um,
I mean, look, the fable from your ancient tradition and books that you mentioned talks about the nature of good and evil, right?
mhm.
Well, we're here when we say culture in crisis. One of the things that's brought the culture into crisis, in my opinion, is the fact that the lines have been so blurred between what is good and what is evil
Mm.
that almost no moral values are being taught in our educational system. Never mind, are there any moral values in government, et cetera, right? It seems like back again to everybody's out to get whatever they can get, and who cares, what kind of havoc they wreak on everybody else.
Right. And even before that, at home, right? And that kind of connects well with the workaholic culture that we are not finding time for our children at home. These values are not taught in schools. I easily see people making their own tables, right? There is a
Yes,
white table, there is a black people sitting on another table, brown people sitting on
yes,
another table, and then they end up finding a roommate based on their comfort zone, right, at college. And then we suddenly expect them to learn all about culture when they hit the business. We try to incorporate all of this into the corporate learnings, right? And
yes.
it's too late by then. You are 25, 30 years old, and now you are going to teach culture. That's crazy.
Well, we also have right now what I call a culture of victimhood. In other words, where is responsibility? In other words, some of our school system now says, oh, we don't really have to give grades because grades are competitive and we might be shaming somebody that's not getting an A, they're getting a C. So we don't want to do that. So when you eliminate a purpose and competition and you kind of just I don't know, homogenize everybody into, oh, it's okay. Whatever you're doing, it's okay. Those lines are being blurred. What is your purpose and what is your motivation as a young person to really strive to be your best when you're just being allowed to slide by in the educational system?
That's right. We are facing cultural crisis in the businesses. One of the biggest problem I have seen is the culture of creating policies but not practically applying it. One simple example is how many times we see insane language used in the offices, the use of abusive languages.
Yes.
Do we have any statistics? How many people are fired because of those policies? We don't.
Well, the standards, well, civility. When a culture is in crisis, it means one of the things that's fallen by the wayside is civility. I don't see much civility again walking around any kind of big city or any place because everybody's so concerned with their own kind of world or in their world. And if you suggest anything that might be contrary to their set of beliefs, suddenly they're going to call you any kind of name that they want to and assume that that is okay and acceptable. Well, it's not okay and it's not acceptable.
That's right.
I don't agree with you. You and I are both respectful people, right?
Hmm.
So
That's
I'm
right.
not going to lash out at you and say, oh, well, why did you say that? Blah, 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 blah. You're demeaning me. You're a man, I'm a woman. All this kind of crazy dialogue that's
Yeah.
going on in a
Hmm.
public place, with education, government, across society. It's just abominable, in my opinion.
Hmm. And I know we talked a little bit about the challenges that we face in the society, what's going on, and we are trying to connect a little bit around what are the mitigants, right?
Yes.
Azara, in your mind, how can we bring that back in action?
Well, I think what you said in terms of it starts with the family, right?
Hmm.
Starts with the family because, well, we're all born as little babies, right? We're in the home. We are
Yeah.
absorbing all the values, traditions, and beliefs and everything else within that family unit. If that
Right.
family unit is fractured by whatever reasons, And right now in America, very fractured society where only 18% have two parents in the home. So that means that mostly women are raising children without support of a father. I mean, that's
Mhm.
already a huge cultural crisis happening. Never
Correct.
mind all the rest of the crises around this particular American culture and spreading out to the world. So we have to develop a more united and strengthened family unit, which means that maybe corporations and the government have to step in a little bit more in terms of what help can they offer to the
Mhm.
parents, especially the single parents who are struggling. They, a lot of the times we have what are known as latchkey kids, meaning forget about two parents being in the home. There's nobody in the
Mhm.
home because the mother, the single person, has to go out and make some kind of living and is not going to be home before the child comes back from school. So that you could see what kind of an incredible, horrendous problem that's going to create in a child growing up. They have no supervision, none. They could be doing anything at all while the parent is out working. They could be getting into drugs, into gang violence, you name it, correct?
Yeah,
So
yeah.
that's first and foremost. How do you mitigate the fact that then the child, if the child is fortunate enough to have strong family values, then goes off to school and
Mhm.
then it's in that kind of atmosphere where who knows what is being taught, right? If the
Right.
child doesn't have an already established set of values by the family, they're going
Mhm.
to be easily swayed
Right.
into not exactly good behavior patterns.
This is where I kind of go back to where do we draw the line around independence for the children, right? Personally, good or bad, I did not used to knock door of my children, and no did they, you know.
Yeah,
At home, we lived in a no sorry, no thank you environment, and it doesn't mean that we don't know the value of these words,
yeah,
but at home we created informal, trustworthy family environment,
yeah,
very transparent, right? So
yeah.
that we have the courage to talk to each other wherever there was a problem.
Wonderful that you have created that atmosphere. I would wish that every family would create that kind of atmosphere where you've already taught a set of values to your children and loved ones. And then they, because of that, they now have a lot of self-esteem, a lot of self-control, and can go out and not be so, again, swayed one way or another by some kind of bad behavior. So families first. And then another thing is teaching the children the value of community engagement.
Mhm. Right.
Children live in a society, they live in a neighborhood, they live in a community, right? So engagement in that community by way of organizing events, street fairs, et cetera, very important. So they get the feeling, oh, okay, it's just not just me and my family, it's me, my family, and my community, correct?
That's why I like to invite people from different cultures, my neighborhood, into my family function.
Absolutely.
Although I'm waiting for an invitation from my local colleague about the Thanksgiving, but I'm making my own beginning. It's funny that that's the second step. That how do we bring diversity at home, right? Some
Yeah.
might argue that, oh, diversity is a concept of business, but it's not. How many times we end up inviting people who do not look like us, who belong to different culture, at our place to celebrate with us, talk to us. Azara, we are right around the time, but thank you so much for being the co-host and talking about the cultural values and the crisis and bringing that back in action, connecting it with the family values. We will keep hosting such kind of podcasts. We will invite some of the chief culture officers and chief purpose officers from the business world, the entrepreneurs and social leaders.
Well, once again, I want to thank you for inviting me to what I think will be a very exciting space to present all of these views from different people, as you mentioned, because we are in it together. Going to wish all the listeners out there a very good time wherever you are until the next time. And again, don't forget to send us questions and comments that we can answer.